My name is Ravindranath Roshny and I'm from Group 3. So today we are going to discuss about the topic Plato's epistemology. To make the transition, let's cast back into the pro-Socratic sophist, where the emphasized on two lines of thoughts developed there. First is pre-scientific cosmology and second is the notion of moral order. These raise epistemological questions. Plato in headers that debate Socrates sought direction. Socrates started the alternative of rhetoric and dialectic. Plato's thinking. Next is Plato's thinking. He has characteristics of Socrates and he asking principal questions. What is knowledge? And in the light of that, can virtue be taught? So other variables involved in the moral education, what is the particular virtue, like the classical Greek virtues of temperance, courage, wisdom and justice. Opinion is based on experience. Experience is basically a matter of sense perception of particular things. Sense perception tends to be relative to the sense organ. Sense perception, in other words, is not yielded by us of unchanging knowledge and of unchanging the truth. It tends to be yield variable relatives awareness to changing particulars. In theaters, that Plato debates various possibilities. First is, if knowledge do not sense perception. Second, knowledge is true opinion of sense, of perception. What is dialectic? Next is, what is dialectics? It is thinking something through so that the conclusion is true of all time and place. It is not a matter of recollecting particular experience. It enables to recall the mind the unchanging truth. Plato believed in the pre-existence of the soul. The Plato's depicting is a scheme which we have two rooms. We have two rooms. The first is the room of physical particulars, and the second is the room of particular truth. In this life, we have to engage in a dialectic, neighboristic thing out there, that is the knowing what we don't know, and in the rhetoric is the sense of reign of opinion. We find Plato talks of knowing by recollection of the unchanging universal essence. So we have to get beyond to the sense perception in empirical generalization to when in abstractly from all of these particulars. Dialectic is simply starts with the emphasis about the essence of something. Plato uses the concepts of quality as an example. Like no physical thing is exactly the same. Next is Plato's Republic. In Symposium, we find he distinguished between essence of beauty, ideal beauty, and particular beautiful things or objects of sense perception. He talks about sensory world and the intelligible words. He represented them by a line dividing into two unequal sections and cut each section in the same ratio, so that line divided into four parts. That is, this is Plato's famous divided lines. Thank you.
I am Kaippadath Vinod Sandra from 3rd Group. The section of the visible in that of the intelligence, and then is the expression of the ratio of their comparative clearness and obscurity. You will have in one section of the visible world, one section images, that is shadows, reflection in the borders or on surfaces. Things of that kind, that is images, shadows, illusions, hallucinations, imaginations. If you like, where you fantasize something, the picture to yourself something which does not exist physically. The second section assumes that this is a likeness or an image, that is animals, plants, and all class of man-made object. In the higher section, you make a distinction such that there is one section which the soul is compelled to investigate it by treating its images. The image imitated in the format of vision and by means of assumptions from which it proceeds to conclusions, and another section which advances from its assumptions to a beginning principle. All mathematical systems that depend on the first principle, which are assumed in inferences. So now we have to distinguish correspondingly the different kinds of awareness. If you take those images to be real, that what we call illusions. This dealing with physical particulars, what we call is the sense perceptions, those of the two kinds of opinion. Knowledge of the first principle is dialectic. Now, what is dialectic? It treats its assumption not as absolute beginnings but as hypotheses that unable to raise that which requires no assumption and is the starting point of all after attaining to that again taking hold of the first appendix, or proceeding down to the conclusions. This is dialectic and it goes on. It is most like task that you have in mind. You distinguish reality in you distinguish reality in the intelligence contemplated by dialectic as something truer and more exact than the objective art and sciences whose assumptions are arbitrary. Those who contemplate them are compelled to use understanding, not the sciences. They go back to the beginning, the foundation in the study. Well, then, it is not dialectic the only process of inquiry that does away from hypothesis advances to the first principle itself. It's true that when the eye of the soul is sunk in the barbaric slough of the Orthic myth, dialectic gently draws it out, leads it up, employing us cooperators with studies and sciences we have enumerated. We give the name dialectician to the man who is able to exact an account of the essence of each thing. Dialectic is the analysis of arguments and ideas, looking for consistency, looking for something which doesn't beg any questions, which have no prior assumptions, uh, scrutinizing it, facing every questions, and if it survives that test, then you can make sure that you grasp the truth. That is the Plato's account of dialectic. Thank you.
Drastoit. My name is Kalathil Mohammed Alfath Rahman and I'm from third group. So today I'm going to speak about forms of Plato. In forms of Plato, it is divided into two: opinion and knowledge. The opinion, it is about which people use of great relevant ideas, and knowledge is something that gained and transmitted from one person to another. And the theory of idea is a philosophical theory and concept or world view attributed to Plato, that the physical world is not as real or true as timeless, absolute, and unchangeable ideas. And the theory itself is contested, from which Plato's and its it is a general point of controversy in philosophy. And knowledge, it is a unchanged truth of previous extinctions, and it can be like, and it can be called as Plato's epistemology, it is a theory of knowledge which is developed by from the Greek philosopher of Plato and his followers. Platonic epistemology holds that the knowledge of Platonic idea is innate, so that learning is the development of idea buried deep in soul and often under the mind like guidance of an interrogator. And another one is archetype. It is a pattern or model which is a part of ideal, and he maintained his the Platonic archetypes are metaphysical ideas, models, and the real things are held to be only corpus of these model and ideas. The likeness and unlikeness is not a contradictory thing. It will like something is not same as unlike something. And it can the other forms of everything, for instance, is the form of opposite. And there is a theory of knowledge where the things come to a conclusion by a sense of experience, and certainly there is another about ethics and about philosophic ideas. And we should live in a rationally ordered life with ideas and knowledge. Spasiba.